Hey Dream Chasers, this is Amy J, your personal hype man and friend here today on episode 244 of Chasing Dreams. Woo! It continues to blow my mind as to how far we've come. Guys, today is the last day in Women's History Month, and I am bringing you an amazing woman for this show. Her name is Maaden Eshete Jones. She's a wellness advocate, storyteller, and lover of celebrations. She believes that community begets fearlessness and that gathering around the table with others to share in real and vulnerable conversations is an act of self-love. The driving idea behind her company, Young Maddie, is to provide women, particularly mothers, with the tools needed to understand and heal from life's inevitable challenges. Maddie is a friend of mine from back in the day, and we reconnected recently after I saw some of the work she is doing, and I'm just blown away with it. And I thought she would be the perfect person to wrap up Women's History Month. All right, guys, here's Maddie.
Hi, I'm Maaden Eshete Jones, founder and creator of Young Maddie, and you're listening to Chasing Dreams with Amy J.
Hey, Maddie, welcome to the show.
Hey, Amy. Thanks for having me.
Listen, Women's History Month, you are doing amazing things, and I think it is representative of someone who needs to be honored this month. So thank you for saying yes.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Well, so I think oftentimes when we think about Women's History Month, right, a lot of times we think Oprah.
Right.
And I'm not saying you're not Oprah. Okay. So just let me not put my foot in my mouth. All right. But we think about the people, Michelle Obama, the people who are celebrities.
Yeah.
People who are famous. But you are doing some work right now that I think is important for people's mental health, for people's relationships.
Yeah.
And I think it should be honored for what you're doing is amazing because you're also juggling that with work, family, friends,
all the things.
Right?
Yeah. That's what we do. That's what women do.
That's what women do.
We do.
We can't just have one hat. You're wearing multiple hats.
Yeah.
All of this. So let's, as we talk about this and what you're doing and how, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but what I think is amazing work with Young Maddie that is impactful for others, including women. What did young Maddie want to be when she grew up?
Young Maddie, much like most kids, thought she might be a doctor. And, sometimes I thought maybe I would be a talk show host or, I don't know, I had a couple different things. Right now I feel like I'm all of those things, somehow. But the one thing that I always would tack on the end of like when grownups would ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Which if you've read Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, I had such a light bulb moment about why that's not even a great question to ask kids, but I digress. I would always add at the end, and a mom. Like that was, I always knew that's the one thing I always knew I wanted to be like, I want to be a doctor and a mom or a talk show host and a mom. So I think when I saw women, like you said, doing all the things and balancing all the things, I always knew there was room to do multiple things, even as a little kid.
First of all, you're the only person I've ever heard say, and a mom.
Yeah.
Add that on. But I'm not surprised because I think oftentimes we see our moms as superwomen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know how my mom raised twins and then a younger child. And, I don't know if you knew, Jamie and I I was a surprise baby. We were surprise twins.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
I thought it was one.
I didn't know that.
So
who was the surprise?
So she only had stuff for one baby. So like, on top of that, and then working and my dad and juggling everything she did, right? I always thought of her as, and still do, think of her as superwoman, a super mom, superwoman kind of person.
Yeah.
Did you have that as a role model as well for your mom?
Absolutely. And I think we also recognize as girls that like being a mom is a job. So like when people ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like I was very aware of the fact that my mom had two jobs. She had the job at work and then she had a job at home. And no slight to my dad, I have a phenomenal dad and he's not really into the gender roles, like very hands-on dad. But as for me, like you said, and who I like looked up to and looked to be like, definitely my mom.
Yeah. And again, no shade to my dad either.
Hey, Dad.
If anything, he's supportive of my mom. But in this Women's History Month, guys, I think we need to call out in our lives. And that's women as well, because you're juggling motherhood, you're juggling a day job, you're juggling a business,
Yeah.
side hustle of sorts, right? That's
Yeah.
even more than what
Right.
our previous generations did.
Oh, for sure.
It's crazy. And
It is.
we're going to talk. I know you're like, Amy, get to it.
A
We got to bring this up, guys. So you know you want to be and a mom, right?
Yep.
But going into college, so did you already know what you wanted to do with that?
I knew pretty early on that I wanted to be in healthcare, right? And so when I was in high school, I did really well in like AP Chem. And so when I went to college, I was like, I like biology, I like chemistry. And then I was looking through the catalog and I was like, oh, biochem,
Mm.
let me do that. Um, so I knew I wanted to be a scientist. By then I had figured that I didn't want to be a medical doctor, but I still wanted to do something with health. And I didn't know what public health was then. Like, I think it was kind of an emerging,
I
yeah,
don't think it was a thing then.
it wasn't really a thing. So yeah, I started as biochem. That changed freshman year. Okay.
What
ASAP.
did it? Hold on. What did it?
So freshman year, I took Chem 101. 101 out the gate. I'm not even talking about by the time I got to Orgo.
First,
Dr. Smith, yep. And Amy and I went to undergrad together. And I got my first D, like big fat D, first semester of freshman year. And, I was like, wow, maybe it's the adjustment, maybe it was fluke, whatever. Took it again. Actually, maybe I squeaked by with a C. But I mean, I had failed some tests.
mm-hmm.
And then I took 102. And then by the end of my freshman year, I was like, I can't do this. Like, this is like, what is happening here? I'm lost in the sauce. So I dropped the chem and I kept the bio because I still wanted to be on this path to work in what I thought like scientists or people who helped others with health. Like I thought you had to have a hard science, as they called it, degree. So I pressed through.
It's interesting because in those days, guys, and we're not going to date ourselves, but in those days, hard sciences were what was encouraged.
Oh yeah.
Right? It wasn't really, people didn't talk about, public health wasn't a thing. I think there was a bio computer, some kind of degree that was
informatics or something.
That was,
and there was like a health policy or a health administration, which I wasn't sure what that was at that age.
I want to say that the public policy building didn't start being built and really a thing until after we graduated.
Yeah.
Like just on the cusp of it.
I think so.
You do the best that you can. So it sounds like you did that. So then how did you land on this path of where you are now?
So there's a thread, like if you talk to enough people, and I hear this on my podcast all the time, that people always kind of see this thread. So at 6, at 5 years of age, I remember that my mom was pregnant. I was so excited I was going to get a little sibling, and she had a miscarriage. And then at 6, my sister was born, and she was born premature. And I remember going back and forth to the hospital, and she was so little, and all the stress on my parents, even as a little kid. And that was kind of the spark. Like I wanted to help moms. I wanted to be a mom. Even in middle school, my friends would make fun of me and say, you're such a soccer mom. Your first car is going to be a minivan. Like I was always concerned with like babies and moms and families. And so that thread kind of continued on. And then when I got to graduate school, so I ended up getting a master's in public health, studying social and behavioral health science. And I did my thesis around maternal and child health. And then once I got married, I experienced recurrent pregnancy loss. And so there was always a thread of being concerned with the issues that women faced, and then particularly moms. And so as my work evolved sort of in my day job, I worked for the federal government, Department of Health and Human Services. I always kind of had something on the side. So I launched a women's health nonprofit with some friends in grad school. And then that turned to a 1-year project, Citrus and Sugar Project, because out of that nonprofit, we were doing like a holistic health thing. I learned that of all the different things on like the wellness wheel, the number one issue that women said they needed the most help with was their mental and emotional. So we did this 1-year project, loved it, started a podcast at that time. This is like 2016. And then it was, it was really popular. And then I took a break, had a baby, had a successful pregnancy, thank God, and then came back and launched Love Maaden. And so it was a culmination of all of these things that I had learned throughout my career in public health, but also my personal life. My support system during my losses were the women that I gathered together with around the table, that I had dinner with, that I met for coffee, were my girlfriends, whether they were moms or not, who helped me through a difficult time, and then my faith. So Love Maaden is literally a marriage of, social aspect of life, the science and the spiritual, and just getting together around the table, helping each other heal, showing one another love, and showing ourselves love. And to me, that is sort of the perfect culmination of my public health story.
That is fantastic. And you could see the thread.
Yeah.
See the thread as it comes. But I got to give you credit. And you brushed over it like it was nothing. But not everybody sees the thread.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody is aware that there is a thread that exists within us.
Yes.
So were you always cognizant of that thread? Or was there something that kind of was like, hey, what about this? You want to do something about it?
I think it was an evolution. It kind of revealed itself slowly over time. So I started to see more and more, commonalities between the things that made me feel good and made me feel like I was on the right path. And so while I always kind of knew like the professional side of it was, all right, you're going to do something in healthcare and help people because that's the way that you want to help serve others. But then there was also like, wow, it really lights you up to have people over, and it really lights you up to talk. I'm a talker. Like one of my things I wanted to be when I grew up was a talk show host. You mentioned Oprah. Back in the day, Oprah was like an idol. So the tagline for Love Maaden is healing through hospitality. And the first tagline I had was just get together and talk. And the idea was that just by getting together to talk and share, we could vastly improve, our lived experiences. So I think for me, there wasn't necessarily an aha moment, but it was a lot of experiences, paired with the things that I really loved and enjoyed doing that made me think like, maybe I can create something that is a marriage of these two sides of me.
What made you, so you have that awareness. It's interesting to me that you created a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to me that you created it so early on.
Yeah.
In things. And so what made you, because it interests me when you start a business, right? Or you start an adventure like this. And especially for women, right? You hear about it for men and people are like, duh, but it's for women. It's not as common.
Right.
So what gave you the impetus or the strength or the conviction to be like, we can do this. It can be impactful. Let's do it.
They say that you can only be what you see or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so I saw it. We were very heavy on Twitter at the time. And so I was hashtagging, about women's health and public health and women's wellness. And then I would see all of these different women working on different projects all around the country. And coming out of graduate school too, I had like sat with some different nonprofits and done some rotations and things. And I thought like, we could do this because my very first nonprofit, it was four of us, Tennille, my co-host on the podcast, and then two other girlfriends of ours, one that went to Emory with Tennille for her MPH and one that went to Morgan with me for my MPH. The four of us all got together. And it started on Twitter. It started as a Twitter conversation. We would like highlight different things on Follow Friday. But yeah, it was really just seeing other women in that space. But the light bulb for the four of us was our public health world is over here, right? Like it's the professionalism, it's the conferences, it's the summits. And then like our social life is over here. So we're hanging out, we're going to happy hour. I was only 24 at the time. We're hanging out after work. We're like having fun. We're traveling. And again, there's that thread of trying to marry the two. It was like, why can't we take our social life and our public health message and bring them together? Like, why can't we bring those into the same space? So our first event was a happy hour, and we premiered a documentary film that actually appeared in that Tanya Lewis Lee, the wife of Spike Lee, had put together back in 2009. We wanted to do a big DC premiere. She had done a New York premiere, and since I was in the doc, it was about maternal health. I was like, hey, Tanya, why don't you come do one in DC? We're super connected in the city. We can kick something off down here. And we did. And we were in this tiny little like bar lounge thing on U Street. We had 120 people in there to come watch a documentary about maternal infant mortality. Infant mortality. Like, well, that's not even a sexy topic for someone in their 20s, right? But we packed it out. And then that night, everyone was like, wow, what's your next event? This was dope. So we were in the clubs, we were at churches, we were doing fitness boot camps. We were all over the place. We were young, we had energy. But from there, I was able to like whittle it down to the mental and emotional health. I knew I had to niche down from that big, broad nonprofit work.
But you found a way. I mean, just to emphasize the point, you found a way to marry two topics, right? And merge them in a way that people will pay attention.
Yeah.
We'll be having a guest on the show next episode, actually, who marries mental health and comedy.
Wow.
It's not always easy to marry these things and have this conversation, but it's impactful. And so let's talk about what Love Maaden is and how you're helping people today. So talk a little bit about the mission of Love Maaden and what events you guys are putting on.
Sure. The mission of Love Maaden is healing through hospitality. I want to help people to heal through hospitality. When you think about the word hospitality, you think about serving others, gathering, making food, maybe the hotel industry, just like serving others, welcoming others. But when you think about the root word for hospitality, it's like the same as the root of hospital, right? It's where we serve and care for others, but it's also a space that we heal in. And so that's what Love Maaden is all about. It's about healing through hospitality, getting together, breaking bread, communing with one another, welcoming God into that space. When we think about Holy Communion and the Last Supper and how they were breaking bread and drinking, wine, not drinking wine, but, the representation, the holy representation. And when you think about that relationship with your creator, we can also commune with one another and we can connect and commune with God as a group as well. And so I feel like there's healing in that from an emotional, a mental, and a spiritual standpoint. And cross-culturally, therapy now is less stigmatized, right? So we see more people talking about how great it is to go to therapy and how wonderful it is and how eye-opening it is. But generationally and cross-culturally, you really see that is just that's something that very recently has come to being less stigmatized.
Right. It's not usually talked about
at all. So when you think about, well, what were people doing prior to? They were healing in their circles. Women were getting together. I'm Ethiopian, so women were getting together and having coffee ceremonies, tea ceremonies. We see in Asia, lots of places where sister circles, all these concepts that we talk about in church of small groups and this, that. People have been doing this stuff for generations, getting together over food, talking and sharing, creating what we now call safe spaces, right? To heal and explore. And so that was such a blessing to me that I was like, and I'm an extrovert, right? So it was easy for me to like get together, but I started thinking like, I wish everyone could have this experience in such a mindful and intentional way. So I started putting together some guides. I call them gathering guides. So if you're an introvert or if you're someone who doesn't like to host or cook or have people over, how can we simplify the idea of gathering? And then how can we prompt the people who are there, the 4 or 5 women that you're gathered with, to really go deeper, become vulnerable, excuse me, and have these real conversations instead of just like the chit chat and the small talk. So I put the guides together, threw them up on the web, and I had a really great reception. So I had built this whole thing around people gathering, and then COVID-19 hits.
Dun, dun, dun.
So that's where I made the pivot to focus more on what are the things that we can do to, yes, still support each other through virtual means and other things, but what are the things that we can do to first work on ourselves? And then how can we bless and be there for others, even if we can't be sitting at the literal table with them? So that's when I started coming out with the things like the card deck that I have. I have a mindfulness workbook. Every other month I put out a box around a different topic. Last month, February, with love was the love box. I have one coming out. The hope box is coming out next. And the idea was, how can we put that experience into a box and then either order it for ourselves or ship it to others and do the work, the mindfulness, the intentional work, the meditation, the journaling, the gratitude practicing, the deep breathing. How can we make those practices and rituals a part of our daily life? So that was a pivot for me. And it's been even greater than what I think I initially imagined with the gathering around the table.
I think what it did, and I've been a part of it, guys, in the sense that I participate in the challenges. You should sign up for her list. The link is in the show notes. It's also lovemaden.com. So there it is.
Yep.
And it's been amazing because it's, I think the one I participated in was Faith, I think October or November. And, it was a passage. It was like a Bible verse for us to meditate on and think on. And you've been giving these challenges that kind of help us reflect and look on. And it's been very insightful for me personally, and I think for others. And so I also want to go back, though, to what you did with the great, your guides together, because I don't want to lose this point. What it sounds like what you did was take away any reason for not getting together.
That was exactly it.
Right? You took it away like, hey, here is the how to. Go forth and just do. And you kind of took the, what do I do? How do I say it? Take what I'm lost, and kind of said, I understand. Here you go.
Yeah. And I think something valuable for those of you who are listening, for dream chasers, is to think about, what is the problem that I'm solving for someone else? So the first thing that I did was, like I said, this stuff is kind of innate to me. I saw so much value in it and I wanted other people to do it. So I started asking my friends, like, would you do this? And then for those who said no, I started like leaning in, like, but why not? My house is a mess, or I don't have time with the kids, or my space is too small. I don't know how to make it. There was a whole big thing. A lot of people make it Instagram worthy. I can't make it look good. There was a lot of people who didn't want to host gatherings because I don't set my table this way or that doesn't,
Yeah.
So like one of the things on the guide is everybody sets their phone down. So nobody's taking pictures. It's not going on Instagram. Did that, thoughts about how we can quickly clean up just the areas that people stay in. If you have like a downstairs bathroom or just a main level bathroom, depending on what your layout of your house or your apartment is, and just a space where you can get together, just clean the bathroom in that room. You don't need to clean your whole house. They're not going to be taking a tour. So little things that would help people just take that intimidation down. Like, okay, well, I could clean a room and a bathroom. I could put together. Cost was another one. So I started doing 20-minute, $20 or less recipes. You could feed 5 friends for $20 or 20 minutes. So I went down the list of every single hesitation someone had. And I don't know how to pick which friends. People will be offended if I don't invite them. So a guide to kind of knowing who's the right mix of people to have. And I addressed every single thing in those guides. And people really found value in it. Yeah.
You guys hear that? Like, if you're chasing your dream, that's one of the things you got to do. Is find out the why, figure out the problem, find out the why, and then find out why they're not doing it.
Yeah.
And this isn't just in entrepreneurship, but in general, when you have a problem, if you're trying to solve it, this is what you do.
Yeah.
You figure out the symptoms, right? Why aren't they coming? And then you find the resolution.
Yeah.
And the thing with what Maddie did is it's repeatable.
Yes.
Right? You can just do that. And that's why I think the COVID pandemic, as bad and annoying as it is, sounds like it was a blessing for you, because I don't think you would have expanded in the way you.
Oh, for sure. 100%. And we started a podcast at the same time that I had started Love Maaden in February. COVID hit in March. And so at first we saw a dip in the podcast, right? Because a lot of people listen to their podcasts on their commute to work, and people weren't going anywhere, or at the gym. But then we saw something interesting happen towards the end of the year. It started coming back up because more people were spending time on social because they're home. And the topics that we were covering around mental health, around needing a freaking break, you know what I mean? Like being around, even if it's people you love, people all the time, living in traumatic times. The white supremacy and racial unrest issues that we had in this country, the election year we were going through. And I was really able to serve people in a different way, even more so through the podcast. And at first I was kind of like, should we put it on hold? Because it seems like less people are listening, but I'm glad we persevered because it served so many more people.
And it sounds like you pivoted a little bit.
We did. I started polling people on IG to find out, like, what do you want to hear about? What do you want to talk about? And then I started, just like you do, tap it into friends or guests or even people I didn't know, but started with friends first to say, you're doing amazing work in this space. Can you come talk to us about it? And so, yeah, it's that. I think it's been a lot of different things. It's the boxes. So I'm bringing the experience to your doorstep. It's the podcast. So it's like you said, COVID-19 really forced us to, or forced me to try to think about what people's needs were in this new sort of unpredicted, unprecedented season that we were all navigating together.
Yeah. And guys, I don't want you to beat yourself up if you took this time to not, you weren't able to pivot the way that Maddie did. Everybody's different. This isn't a comparison game or anything like that. I just want to highlight that for her, it worked. It was something that was important to her for her to work on. And that was her path. If that's not what you did, that's all right. That's okay.
Yeah. And I want people to know, like, we see you. Like, if you're struggling during this time, if you've lost someone, if you've been sick yourself or your loved ones, if your anxiety is through the roof, my anxiety was through the roof. So we started doing a lot of content around anxiety because I needed it. You're seen, you're recognized, you're acknowledged. So, this is one path for one person, but we all have our own path. But I think that one thing we can say unequivocally is none of us are going to come out of this situation unchanged. And so I think it's important for us to take the time to process because we have this shared traumatic lived experience. I think it is important for us to take the time to process and think about, what can I take away from this that could be beneficial? And what challenges have I faced during this time that I need to spend the time to heal?
And it's not, and Maddie's absolutely right, guys. There's no right answer to this.
Right.
There's no one answer. It's what works for you. What is your solution? What is your lesson? But the fact that you do the exercise is what's important.
Right.
That's the thing I want take away what she said.
Yeah.
Right? Don't look for what her answer was. Don't look for what my answer is.
Yeah.
What's your answer to that?
Take the time to process. Take the time to process. Nobody knows you as intimately as you know yourself. So the work that you can do when you're spending the time processing, and I talk a lot about self-love, but also self-compassion. I know we talk about self-care a lot, but I think self-compassion is important. It adds that element of grace. So if you didn't do what you wanted to do in this season, or you had goals that you didn't accomplish, are you showing yourself the same grace and love that you would show maybe to a friend who is in a similar situation? So as you're processing, be gentle with yourself. That's really important.
And so speaking of self-love, I want to talk a little bit about that because I don't think oftentimes we talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's selfish
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that, to practice self-love is, I can't do that. I'm not thinking of others. It's too selfish of me to do self-love. I'm a mom. I'm a sister. I'm a wife. I got other responsibilities. I don't have time for self-love.
Yeah.
So can you talk about what is self-love and why, if at all, it's important?
Sure. So all those titles that you mentioned, Amy, are all titles that people throw out all the time, why they don't have time. But the thing is, before you were all of those things, you were you. So that self-love component has to come before you can love on any of those other people or projects or ideas or whatever it is that's keeping you don't have time, that's keeping you from prioritizing yourself. So my sort of basis for the love challenge, the 21-day love challenge that we did in February, and it can be done at any time. The download is always going to be on the website, so you guys can grab it, is first, love God, then love yourself, then love others. And a lot of times people invert that. We feel like in order to serve God, we have to love others and be kind and be gracious and sometimes give what we don't have. And all of those things are wonderful. I think sometimes we think that those things are honorable, but if they're at the disservice of ourselves or even serving God, then we've got it kind of backwards. So I'm a believer. I have my Faith, Hope, Love shirt on. This was part of one of the items in the Love series collection. And so the Bible says that the first and greatest commandment is to love God above all else. And it says the second greatest commandment is like it. It is to love others as you love yourself. And oftentimes we miss that as you love yourself part. We say the second greatest commandment is to love others. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we love God and we love others and we X ourselves out. But here's why that doesn't make sense. So number one, we can't love ourselves. We can't love others unless we know how to love them. And so we're supposed to love them like we love ourselves, right? Okay, well, how do I know how to love myself? Well, if we were created in God's image and there's a blueprint for how to love God and we're told how to love God, right? Then we know that first that sets the foundation. We love God. We love our creator. It puts us in a position of humility. It puts something greater than ourselves, right? That we can look to. Then we're able to focus on ourselves, our gifts, the things that we were put here to do, our purpose, dream chasing. That's what the show is all about. We're not equipped to do any of those things unless we can first spend the time loving ourselves, honoring ourselves, having the confidence that we need, the self-efficacy that we need to equip us to move forward towards our dream. And then finally, once we're filled up, right, on that love from God and that love from selves, then we have enough overflow to love others. And I would venture to say that most of you who are out here chasing your dreams have something somewhere in your mission to help others, to impact others. Most of our dreams are not just for us. Somehow our dreams are going to impact someone else. So I would challenge you to think about, before I'm equipped to do that, am I doing what needs to be done for myself? Am I taking that extra hour in the morning? Am I spending quiet time to read and study? Am I focusing on maybe just 3 things that I'm grateful for a day? Am I processing when I feel anxious or when I feel stressed, or am I just pushing through? So I would really challenge you. I think it will help your business, your ideas, your projects, whatever it is that you have bubbling up, how you show up in the world, if you would take that time to first love on yourself.
Hold on. That deserved it.
Thank you.
I can't say any more than that, because guys, you've been on the show. You've listened to the episodes. We talk about the importance of taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, right? All of those things. And it comes down to that self-love.
Yeah.
It comes down to what Maddie is saying about taking the time for yourself first. And I know you think, so many people I've heard, it's like, I don't have time. I have to I have to get the kids. I have to do this. And we somehow lower ourselves in the priority.
Yep. It's the deprioritization of self. We all have, X amount of time. It's a finite amount of time. It's what we do with the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, there's no right answer. All we're saying is take care of yourself first, right?
Yes.
When you're on a plane, what is the thing? What does the steward say? Put your mask on first before you
can help someone else.
You can't help nobody if you're passing out.
Correct. Yeah. It's the same concept with saving money. Think about, your check comes in and you have all of your expenses, and then it's like, oh, I can't save money. I have too many expenses. Mm-hmm. If you take that money off the top, soon as that direct deposit hit on Friday, you make sure you have an auto payment or an auto save, or you don't even see it. That thing hits another account. You will save much faster than if you wait until whatever you have left. Because, right, I think your responsibilities, your expenses, your time, it's going to expand to fit what you've got. It's just like the ladies who carry a purse. The bigger the purse, the more stuff you carry. So it's like, it's going to expand to fill up whatever resources you have. So get yours off the top, just like with saving. Get yours off the top.
It's so important, guys. It's so important. And it's funny because I just don't think, I think it's a learned thing, right? Because when I think about it, my mom was so self-sacrificing. Mm-hmm. Right? And I feel like, because you wear these new titles, you tell me, sometimes in the old generations, and possibly even some of this current generation, people feel like if they're not self-sacrificing, then they're not a good mom.
Oh, for sure. That mom guilt is real. And honestly, I think part of it is innate, right? Like, we have all these hormonal changes going on. So there is something that's wired in us to protect, to nurture, to care for that child. Like, that's your responsibility. So it's something that just, it hits, the instincts hit. So there's that. There's nature. But then there's nurture. Then there's society that puts extra pressure, pressure is the best way to describe it, on women that the dads don't get, that non-moms don't necessarily get around, what you should and should not be doing now that you're a mom.
100%.
What is that? And the thing is, as much as we try to kind of stand against it, it's so strong and so ingrained into our society. It's in our media, family, whatever, that I think that paired with the sort of internal sort of wanting to take care of your child, that mom guilt, the first time I felt it, I was like, this is crazy. This isn't me. I feel guilty I left my house for an hour and a half and I was like, oh my gosh, as a new mom, is the baby okay? Am I supposed to be doing this? And every time you take on a new project it's going to creep up, but you have to speak truth. You have to speak truth over yourself. That's why it's also important to lay that foundation. Know what your non-negotiables are. Know what matters to you. You can still be a great mom and do all of the things that you're purposed to do.
And you can. I think social constructs are something we have to fight in today's society, guys. There's just so many things that are being challenged, and that is one of them, right?
Yeah.
Like, so many of them. Every time you turn, it's like, wait. And we talked about it on my other podcast, Your Personal Hype Man, how you have to challenge these biases. And social construct is a bias that you have to fight against because you put it out there.
Yep. And it's not just on the women to fight, and it's not just on the moms to fight, right? So just like with any other social construct, it's on the partners to show up and to be there. It's on the support system and the village to show up and to be there, not to reinforce the stereotypes, for the dad to take off when the child is sick. I mean, there are a lot of different things. For the job to not make an assumption about she can't get a promotion because she's got a small child. So if you're in a managerial position, all of us have to do our part to make sure that we are not reinforcing stereotypes, not just in this scenario with mothers or with women, as we're in Women's History Month, but racial stereotypes, other societal and cultural things that we do that are toxic. We all have to play our part to change that.
Yeah. And I think the first step towards that, or there's two steps. One, having empathy
for sure,
brother or sister, right? We're all in this world. We're one race.
Yes.
One race, right? So stop with all that. We are one. If COVID showed me anything, it was that some of y'all don't get that lesson.
Yeah.
Some of y'all don't get that. The second is being open-minded enough, I think, to accept the fact that you may be wrong about something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, you're not going to challenge anything if you're already closed-minded to your perception can't be wrong.
Yeah.
Not going to work.
Yeah.
Right. And so, Maddie, when you started Love Maaden and it's going, can you talk to these guys about, so this episode is going to air March 31st. So if you're listening in March, Maddie has a challenge that starts tomorrow, but launches really May 1st. Can you talk about the challenge and what it is so that people can understand what it is you do with Love Maaden, get a sense of it?
Absolutely. Tomorrow, April 1st, is my birthday. And so I am going to launch the Hope Series challenge. And so the Hope Series collection will go live in the shop. The 21-day challenge download will be available, and folks can start to order their Hope boxes. So that's that box that I was describing that comes with everything that you need to be intentional during the 21 days. You can do it without the box. I don't want it to be a hindrance, right? You can download the challenge for free and get going. But the box gives you an opportunity to have additional items. It has a workbook, some little reminders that you can use, affirmations. It has a cute little enamel pin that you could pin somewhere to kind of help you to remember as a visual cue that you're participating on this challenge. So all that becomes available throughout the month of April. I'll be shipping all that good stuff out. And then on May 1st, we will start the Hope series together. We will do a 21-day challenge broken down over 3 weeks, because they say, whoever they is, that it takes 21 days to make or break a habit, to start to get into the habit and ritual of being hopeful, just like we did last month with getting into the habit and the ritual of showing love. And so all of us can use a little bit more hope. All of us are in the wait for something. We're working on something. We're waiting on something. We're hoping for something. And so it's how to strengthen that muscle. So when we think about our emotional and spiritual wellness, it's just like exercise. Like I'm the kind of person who'll do one workout and be in the mirror looking for abs. Like, did it work? Did it work? But we know it doesn't work like that, right? Same thing with our spiritual muscles. You have to work them. You have to practice them. And so that's what the 21-day challenge is about. I encourage you to sign up at lovemaden.com. And all the Hope Series stuff will be up front. You can't miss it because that's going to be the focus for the month of May.
And guys, so there are a few reasons I wanted Maddie to talk about it. One, I want you to participate. Yes. Two, the reason I want you to participate is May is also Mental Health Awareness Month. And what better way to help with your mental health than hope?
Yeah.
Right. I think it's important. I'm going to be participating in the challenge. I hope you'll join us.
Yeah.
With it. And three, I'm always about something that has the number 21. You know that. It's true. 21 days for a habit. It'll help you get there. Right. But I think it's so important because your mental health is something I think that we don't put enough priority on. And I think this will help you guys. Mm-hmm. Than you expect it will. It'll surprise you.
Yeah. And it's so interesting that we spent so much of the episode talking about moms and motherhood, but we know that Mother's Day is in May, and it can be challenging for a lot of folks. It can be challenging for people who have lost their mom, who have a difficult relationship with their mom. And for us ladies, for those who aspire to be a mom, but the timeline or maybe fertility issues, maybe you've lost a pregnancy, lost a child. We look at Mother's Day as this great time with the flowers and this and that, but there are so many difficult things that could potentially be tied to or triggered to that day. And so for me, it was triggering for so many years. And I felt hopeless around Mother's Day because I was experiencing this recurrent loss, and I needed something to hang my hat on to. I needed something to help me through that season. And so I went back through my old journals where I was journaling my experience to look at what is it that I used to help me get through this experience, whether it was scripture or different practices or exercises. And so I pulled all of those things together to put this series together. So it was a labor of love. I put it together last year, actually, and have been preparing this whole time for this series so that I can really give you all the best experiences possible. And it's my prayer that I can help people through whatever they're going through. It might not be with motherhood, but that's why I chose May. And so for it to also fall on Mental Health Awareness Month, I mean, that's fantastic.
It's aligned.
Yeah.
It's aligned, guys. And if you have any questions about the challenge, whether it's right for you, et cetera, don't just sit with that. Reach out. Maddie's information is going to be in the show notes so you guys can check that out. So I encourage you because, I'm all about mental health and helping you guys be the best you can be.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
We gotta get you to some important questions. So
okay.
Let's start the questions. Let's go. It's all time right. To be intentional. It's time.
Let's do it.
What is the number one mistake you think that people make most when they chase their dreams?
So I'm generally a proponent of mistakes. I think that mistakes are good. I think you should fail forward, fail fast, keep moving forward, kind of quick cycle, quick sprints. I think the one mistake that you can make, though, that can really be a hindrance is to not start. That's the one that there's not a lot of recovery from because you ain't doing nothing. So you don't have to wait for perfection. A lot of times when we think about perfectionism and procrastination, those are just different ways for us to say fear. They're fear dressed up, fear with makeup on. So I would say just start where you are with what you have. Just go. And I'm a perfectionist. Amy will tell you because I'm like, I got to get this right. Even with this episode, I'm like, I got to get the lighting right. I got to make sure, so it's something I'm constantly struggling with, but don't let that hinder you from just doing the thing. Just do it. Just start.
I love that because the thing is that we all need an origin story, not an orange story, origin story.
Origin story. Yep.
Right. And that's, if you don't just start, then where are you going to go? If you're looking for perfection, where do you go after that? There's nowhere to go. There's no growth. There's no movement.
That's true. Yeah.
So that, I'm with you. That is not a mistake I want you guys to keep doing because you should just be starting and going.
Yeah. And like they say, done is better than perfect. If perfect is going to keep you from getting it done, if it's going to keep you from hitting publish on that first episode of that podcast or outlining that book or getting that website up or writing that screenplay or whatever dreams you have inside of you, if you trying to get it perfect is going to keep you from doing it, then perfection actually becomes your enemy. So we have to fight it. We have to actively combat it and fight it and just go.
It's funny because I'm like, is that the opposite of imposter syndrome? Both, I think, because of fear.
Fear.
Like they're both products of it.
Yeah. And they can be interrelated. Sometimes we can be perfectionists or we can procrastinate because of the imposter syndrome. I have to look like this before I can do it. And we compare. We scroll and we compare, we look around, we look left and right. And I always say, face your front, look up, then look forward. Mm-hmm. God will pack into you what you need to get your work done. And then you just go forward. Don't be worrying about who's in these lanes next to you.
Nope. Because everybody's running a different race.
Everybody's running a different race.
Maddie's chapter 5 is different from my chapter 5, y'all.
That's it. And sometimes you're looking at somebody's chapter 20, but because you're in chapter 5, you're like, Dad, how'd she do that? Right. Sis, she's in chapter 20. She's been running this race for 15 chapters and you're comparing things that are apples and oranges. Okay. So just compare yourself to yourself. Where was I yesterday? And where am I today? Did I make progress? Incremental progress. Laura Casey, I don't know if you're familiar with Cultivate What Matters, but she says small steps, little by little is how we get to our big goals. It's little by little that we have to cultivate things little by little to get to those big goals.
It's just you against you guys.
That's it.
That's all it is. Yeah. Maddie, the second question I have to ask, you may already use the same answer, but I want to challenge you to think of another one.
Okay.
What is one thing these guys can do today, outside of just starting, to help them in their dream chase?
One thing that people could do today, write it down. Whatever it is that you want to do, write it down. There is, again, here it is with the social spirit science, spiritually based. There's science around this. And, conventional wisdom will tell you that there is power in writing something down, whether you're in a lecture hall, listening to notes, when you write them down, if you're studying your Bible, if you rewrite the scripture, and you'll commit it to memory, but also you give stuff life. When you speak it and you write it down, you give stuff life. So take your dreams, find, it doesn't have to be perfect and fancy journal. Just find something, find a notebook, 29-cent composition book from Walmart or whatever, and write it down. That's a first easy step that you can see, and it makes it real.
I can't remember who said this, but someone said if you want to reach your goals, then one, have them, but to make them more likely of achieving them, say them out loud.
Yep.
But if you really want to accomplish those goals, write it down.
Write it down. Yeah. And it gives you a record. And I touched quickly, I kind of glazed over gratitude practice. It's super important. Actually, right here on my desk, I can show you guys, I have a gratitude jar, right? So I'll take a slip of paper and I'll write down what I'm grateful for and I'll put it in this jar as a practice. But when you go back and you look at the record of what you wrote down, I look at my dreams from 2014 and 2015. I'm like, dang, I did that. I did that. Or even if it pivoted or even if it shifted. When Love Maaden was first an idea, I didn't even know what it was or what it would be called. I just started writing things down, like getting together, mental health, sister circle, friend groups. And I just started like ideating. And now I can go back and be like, oh, wow, I did that. And I get filled with so much gratitude to see it. Sometimes we forget our humble beginnings. We forget our origin story if we don't have a record. So keep a record.
That's it.
Yeah.
Guys. Just do it. Listen to Maddie. Go follow her. And Maddie, I'm so grateful. It's always so much fun with you.
I know.
Coming on the show. Tell these guys where they can go to connect with you on these interwebs, not just your website, but everywhere else.
So I'm the same everywhere you look. So the website and everything else is Love Maaden, Love, my first name, Maaden, 2 A's, 1 D. So that's my website. That's the name of the podcast. You can search me wherever you listen to podcasts. That's where I am on all the socials. But I think the best way is to sign up for my email newsletter. I only do it once a month. It's a love note for me to you. It's just a very real and raw note that I write about what's going on, what the plans are for what's next. I don't spam you. I don't write you a whole bunch of stuff. I don't promote a whole bunch of stuff. But it's a great way for us to keep in touch. But hit me up, DM me. I'll hit you back. I love it. Huh?
She'll hit you back.
Oh, I'll hit you back. Yeah, I love to keep in touch. I love to chat. So just hit me up.
Yeah, for sure. Maddie, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing your knowledge with these guys. It's the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for creating this space. Thank you for honoring women this month. Thank you for the focus that you have on mental health, for the focus that you have on helping us really identify and go after our dreams and not feel stuck to the path that might have been laid out for us, even if it's a path that we laid out for ourselves. So thank you for giving us the freedom to chase our dreams. Appreciate you.
There you guys have it. That was Maddie. Was I not right? Was I not right? There were so many gems she was dropping left and right, left and right. And the biggest lesson she gave, I think, though, was for you to just start. Just start chasing your dreams so that you can begin your origin story so that you can find what you need. And I highly encourage you guys to sign up for her Hope Challenge. You guys can find all of that, the information, the links, everything on the show notes page over at amyj21.com/episode 244. That's episode 244. All right, Dream Chasers, until next time, remember, don't stop. Keep chasing.